Ancient Rome, a world full of spectacle, mystery, and superstition. And if you're anything like me, you probably have found yourself often captivated by the grandeur of its architecture and the sheer scale of its military endeavors. But today we're diving into something a little stranger. We're exploring the eerie, the legendary, and the downright bizarre. Stories that blur the lines between myth and reality. So settle in as we uncover 10 of the most chilling and fascinating legends from Roman history. Tales that have echoed through the centuries and continue to mystify us today. And be sure to subscribe to History, Legend, and Lore for more strange and captivating stories from the past. Hidden beneath Rome's legendary Palatine Hill lies the shadowy Lupercal Cave, a site steeped in myth, mystery, and a bizarre blood-soaked tradition. According to legend, it was here, within this dark and sacred hollow, that the fierce she-wolf nursed the abandoned twins Romulus and Remus, unknowingly nurturing the founders of what would become one of the greatest empires in human history. But the Lupercal Cave was no ordinary cradle. It was the heart of one of Rome's oldest and wildest festivals, Lupercalia. Every year in mid-February, young Roman men, barely clothed and smeared with the blood of sacrificed goats, would dash through the streets in a frenzied ritual, laughing and howling like wild animals as they struck passers-by, especially women, with whips made of flayed goat skins. You know the ladies loved that. These lashes, known as febura, were believed to ensure fertility, ward off evil spirits, and purify the city in the eyes of the gods. Far from fringe, this ritual was celebrated annually in Rome. Even Julius Caesar reportedly took part, with Mark Antony attempting to place a golden crown upon his head, only for him to refuse, and instead encourage Antony to lash his wife in the hopes that she would bear a child. The festival was brutal, primal, and deeply Roman. Incredibly, the Lupercal Cave may have survived the centuries, hidden beneath ancient ruins. In January 2007, Italian archaeologists announced the likely discovery of the legendary cave beneath the remains of Emperor Augustus's palace. Inside the chamber was a richly decorated grotto, its walls covered in mosaics, seashells, and shimmering pumice stone. At the center, on its ceiling, a white eagle spreads its wings, the enduring symbol of Roman power. The cave's location, directly beneath Augustus's home, was no accident. Before he became Rome's first emperor, the young Octavian had considered renaming himself to Romulus, signaling his desire to refound Rome in his image. That he lived above the Lupercal Cave, the mythical womb of Rome itself, was both symbolic and strategic. Today, the Lupercal Cave remains sealed off, its full depths unexplored, but its legend lingers, whispering of wild rites, savage gods, and the blood-drenched origins of an empire built on myth. Rome's legendary founder, Romulus, met an end as mysterious and shadowy as his life was epic. According to ancient legend, it happened during a public assembly on the field of Mars. Suddenly, a violent whirlwind storm swept over the gathering, howling winds darkened skies, and when the chaos cleared, Romulus was gone, vanished without a trace. The Roman historian Livy recounts 3 possible fates. The first tale claims Romulus was struck by lightning, his body obliterated by a divine force. Another whispers that jealous senators, weary of his power, tore him limb from limb and scattered the pieces across Rome. But the most enduring version of the myth, and the one Livy preferred, states that Romulus didn't die at all, but was carried to the heavens by Mars, the god of war himself. This legend was more than a myth, it was political theater. Believing that Romulus had ascended allowed the Romans to imagine that their founder had become a god, watching over the city from above. His so-called disappearance became divine propaganda, proof in Roman eyes that the gods favored their expansion and conquest. Still, the intrigue on what really happened to Rome's founder has never stopped. Had he been betrayed, murdered by his closest allies, or was it a calculated myth, a carefully constructed legend, to deify a mortal king and secure Rome's authority? Whatever the truth, Romulus's vanishing left a permanent mark. He became both man and god, founder and martyr. This mystery shaped how Romans saw their future rulers, not just as men of power, but as vessels of the divine. In time, he even gained a cult following, worshipped as the god Quirinus, the personification of the Roman nation. Did you know that Rome had its own Cliff of Doom, a grim, jagged precipice known as the Tarpeian Rock? Towering nearly 80 feet high on the southern face of the Capitoline Hill, it wasn't just a natural feature, it was a weapon of the state. From this height, traitors and enemies of Rome were hurled to their deaths, their bodies shattered on the stones below. Its deadly legacy begins with a legendary betrayal. According to legend, Tarpeia, the daughter of a Roman commander during the Sabine Wars, betrayed her people. She agreed to open the gates to the enemy in exchange for what she thought would be gold. But the Sabine warriors, disgusted by her treachery, crushed her beneath their heavy shields and flung her from the cliff she had helped them conquer. Thus her name, Tarpeia, became synonymous with betrayal, and the rock itself a monument to the deadly cost of treason. From then on, the Tarpeian Rock became more than a place of punishment. It was a stage for public condemnation. Being thrown from the rock was not just a death sentence, but a ritual humiliation. The fall wasn't physical, it was moral. To be hurled from the Tarpeian Rock meant your name would be erased with dishonor, your memory tainted by shame. Even prominent Romans weren't spared this grim fate. Spurius Cassius, an early consul accused of harboring royal ambitions, met his end here. Even just the accusation of tyranny was enough. Off the rock he went. The cliff came to embody the grim truth of Roman politics. Ambition could elevate you to the heights of the Capitoline Hill, but one misstep, one whisper of treachery, and you could be cast down in an instant. The Latin phrase Rex Tarpeia Capitoli Promix Ex, the Tarpeian Rock is close to the capital, became a chilling proverb. It reminded every Roman that power and ruin were separated by a single step. To stand near the Capitoline was to stand near glory, but to fall from it was to vanish in disgrace. Along the ancient Appian Way, just inside Rome's Aurelian walls, rests a burial site cloaked in shadow and legend, the tomb of the Scipios. This once revered family crypt became infamous not just for who lay inside, but for what seemed to follow those who disturbed it. The Scipios were among some of the most celebrated names in Roman history. Scipio Africanus, who finally defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama, and Scipio Aemilianus, who razed Carthage to the ground, are both buried here. But over time, the tomb's legacy took a darker turn. After a string of sudden tragedies and mysterious deaths within the Scipio line, whispers of a curse began to circulate. Locals believed the tomb had become a place of doom, and that any who entered or tampered with the dead would suffer severe misfortune. Its reputation grew more sinister with every generation. The eerie silence surrounding the site and its decaying grandeur sparked rumors of supernatural vengeance, ancestral wrath that lingered in the stone walls. Even centuries later, the tomb of the Scipios remains a place of uneasy reverence. It stands not only as a monument to Rome's greatness, but as a chilling reminder that some legacies carry more than honor, some carry a curse. Have you ever heard of the Sibylline Books? In one of Rome's most enduring legends, a mysterious woman, believed to be a Sibyl, a prophetess, woman of ancient power, appeared before King Tarquin the Proud, the last monarch of Rome. She offered him 9 books of prophecy, claiming they held divine revelations about the future of Rome, warnings, omens, and commands from the gods themselves. But the price she demanded was astronomical, and the frugal Tarquin laughed her off. Without a word, she burned 3 of the books right in front of him, and then offered the remaining 6 for the same price. Still, he refused. Then she burned another 3. With only 3 books left, Tarquin panicked, fearing the complete loss of what now seemed to be genuinely sacred knowledge. He agreed to pay the full original price, for a third of what he had been offered. She really played him like a fiddle. Those final 3 texts became known as the Sibylline Books. They were stored in the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus and could only be consulted at moments of grave national crisis. When disaster loomed, plague, war, famine, civil unrest, Roman leaders turned to the books for guidance. Their cryptic verses shaped policy, justified divine interventions, and cemented decisions in times of chaos. Even the dictator Sulla, during his ruthless rise to power, had the books consulted to legitimize his actions, framing his overtake of the Republic and march on Rome as prophecy fulfilled. In 83 BC, a fire consumed the Temple of Jupiter, and the original Sibylline Books were lost forever. The Romans scrambled to replace them by collecting oracles from across the Mediterranean, but the mystery and awe of the originals were gone forever. To this day, the story of the Sibylline Books remains a haunting reminder that wisdom, especially divine wisdom, can come at an unfathomable price. In 9 AD, deep within the mist-shrouded forest of Germania, 3 Roman legions vanished into the trees and never came back out. Led by the ambitious general Publius Quintillus Varus, the legions had marched confidently deep into barbarian territory, unaware that they were walking straight into a trap. Their supposed ally, the Germanic chieftain Arminius, turned against them. Over several days, the Romans were ambushed, surrounded, and slaughtered in a torrential storm of blood and chaos. Over 20,000 Roman soldiers were massacred. Their bodies were never given a proper burial. Their banners were lost, their eagles, sacred symbols of Rome, captured by the barbarians. The news sent shockwaves through the empire. Emperor Augustus, upon hearing of the disaster, was said to have cried out, "Quintilis Varus, give me back my legions." But it wasn't just the military defeat that haunted Rome. When Roman forces finally returned to the site years later to reclaim their eagles, they found the forest still eerily silent. Bones still littered the earth. Altars to strange gods stood among the trees. And among the soldiers, rumors began to spread. Men spoke of ghostly sounds at night, screams, clashing swords, and the low moan of dying men echoing through the woods. Some claimed to have seen phantom legions marching silently through the mist, endlessly repeating their doomed final march. Even hardened veterans avoided the forest, believing it cursed. To many Romans, Teutoburg had become a wound on the empire's soul, a place where Roman pride was broken, a site where nature, betrayal, and Germanic vengeance had swallowed a piece of Rome's invincibility whole. And in the silence of the trees, it was said the ghost legions still march, lost forever, in a land that never wanted them. Some ghost stories are so chilling, they find their way into the histories recorded by Rome's greatest minds. One such tale unfolded in Athens, documented vividly by Pliny the Younger, a distinguished Roman senator and historian. In his letters, Pliny recounts a haunting that terrified Athenians. According to his letter, there was a house in Athens so filled with dread that no one would live in it. Tenants fled in terror, because each night a horrifying apparition would appear. A gaunt, spectral old man, his beard long and tangled, his body emaciated, and worst of all, bound in chains. The sound of rattling irons echoed through the corridors as the ghost dragged his shackles behind him, pacing endlessly. The house, once grand, had fallen into ruin, its walls cracked, its gardens overgrown. The property value plummeted. No one dared go near it until one man arrived. His name was Athenodorus, a Stoic philosopher, wise, skeptical, and unshaken by superstition. When he arrived in Athens, he heard the rumors, and he didn't flinch. Instead, he rented the house. That very night, he set up a table in the main room, lit a lamp, and began to write. And then, the chains began to rattle. At first, he ignored it and focused on his work, but the sound grew louder and louder, and closer and closer. When he finally looked up, the ghost stood before him, exactly as described, old, thin, and bound in heavy chains. The figure raised his hands and beckoned. Rather than flee, Athenodorus followed. The ghost led him to a courtyard, and then vanished. The next morning, Athenodorus informed the city magistrates and ordered the ground be dug up where the ghost had disappeared. There, the workers discovered a set of human bones, chained. The remains were properly buried, and from that moment on, the house was no longer haunted. Pliny's tale is one of the earliest recorded ghost stories in Western literature, and while it takes place in Greece, it's preserved thanks to the Roman author, giving it a unique place in Rome's long relationship with the supernatural. Was it a clever moral tale about the power of reason, a warning about unresolved justice, or did a Roman philosopher truly witness the restless dead? Whatever the truth, the story of the haunted house of Athens became a cornerstone of Roman-era ghost lore, proving that even in the age of empire and intellect, some doors should not be opened. In the wake of one of the most devastating disasters in Roman history, the Great Fire of Rome raged for 9 harrowing days. 10 of the city's 14 districts were reduced to cinders. Thousands perished. Entire neighborhoods vanished into ash and smoke. And in the smoldering aftermath, amid the ruins of a grieving city, Emperor Nero began to build. What rose from the rubble was not a monument to recovery, but a monument to Nero himself. The Domus Aureus, or the Golden House, was a palace so vast, so obscenely opulent, that it shocked even the decadence of Rome. Stretching over hundreds of acres, it included gardens, vineyards, fountains, and even an artificial lake. Its walls were coated in gold leaf. Precious gems glistened its frescoes, and at its heart, a rotating dining room, designed to follow the stars as Nero feasted beneath a gilded dome. But the emperor's dream quickly became his curse. Nero's excess, his persecution of Christians and others, and his rumored role in starting the fire that made room for this golden monstrosity earned him the hatred of the people. After his fall from power and death in 68 AD, the Golden House fell into ruin and into legend. Rome wanted to forget, so later emperors buried the Domus Aureus beneath new constructions like the Colosseum, both literally and symbolically erasing Nero's legacy. They may have buried the palace, but what they couldn't bury was the fear. Romans soon whispered that Nero's spirit had never left. Visitors who entered the remains of the palace spoke of phantom voices, chilling cries, and unseen apparitions lurking the underground halls. They reported feeling watched. Some claimed to hear the sounds of music, strange and distant, echoing faintly as if from another world. Interestingly, one of Nero's favorite pastimes was indeed music. The Domus Aureus, once the greatest symbol of imperial ambition, became a haunted ruin, avoided by locals and feared by generations. Nero's ghost, they believed, still wandered the dark corridors, tormented by ambition, guilt, and rage. Even centuries later, artists and emperors who stumbled upon the buried halls, such as Renaissance painters who lowered themselves down by rope into the frescoed rooms, spoke of the strange, otherworldly atmosphere from within. Today, the remains of Nero's palace can still be visited beneath the earth, but the air is thick, the silence is eerie, and the memory of its former master still lingers. In the heart of Rome lies a warning carved in stone that even the most golden dreams, when built on the suffering of others, can become a haunted tomb for their creator's ambition. In the twilight space between myth and mystery, there's a tale so bizarre it haunted even the rational minds of Rome, a story whispered across centuries, of poetry, prophecy, and a severed head that would not fall silent. According to Roman myth, the head of Orpheus, the legendary Greek poet and musician, washed ashore near Rome. His body had been torn apart by frenzied Maenads, followers of Dionysus, but the head, it said, was carried by the Hebrus River into the sea, and somehow, impossibly, continued to sing. Still nestled in the lyre that floated beside it, the head sang songs of the underworld, and enchanted all who heard it. Its voice echoed, not with mourning, but with prophecy. The Romans, never one to waste a good omen, enshrined the head in a sacred cave near the Tiber River. From there on, the singing head of Orpheus became an oracle, whispering riddles, visions, and warnings from the land of the dead. Pilgrims came not to mourn, but to seek answers from the dismembered voice of the most gifted bard of myth. Whether real or just a fable, the tale gripped the Roman imagination. To them, Orpheus wasn't just a figure of Greek myth, he was a prophet, a conduit, a reminder that some voices echo far beyond death. One of the most iconic roles in ancient Rome was that of the Vestal Virgins, who were priestesses of the goddess Vesta, sworn to 30 years of chastity. Their purity was said to safeguard the fate of Rome itself. But if a Vestal broke her vow, she faced a horrifying punishment, being buried alive in a sealed underground chamber, left to starve in silence. Romans feared that such a transgression didn't just doom the woman, it could bring disaster to the entire city. The Vestals were revered and feared, their sacred flame symbolizing Rome's divine protection. Even after the rise of Christianity, the legend endured, and in the early 400s AD, a noblewoman named Serana desecrated a pagan temple and was cursed by an aged priestess said to be the last of the Vestals. Within years, she would be dead, along with her husband and their son. Soon after, Rome was sacked by the Visigoths under Alaric in 410 AD. Many believed the fall wasn't just political, it was divine retribution, the vengeance of a silent order that once held the empire's destiny in its hands. In 413 AD, to counter this pagan opposition, St. Augustine began writing his magisterial defense of Christianity, the City of God, further burying the pagan ways of the past. These ancient legends and ghostly tales offer more than mere entertainment. They reveal a deep and complex understanding of Rome's cultural psyche, reflecting its fears, beliefs, and aspirations. From haunting prophecies to tragic betrayals, these stories continue to echo through time, reminding us of the enduring power and mystery of one of history's greatest civilizations. So that'll do it. If you enjoyed this journey through Rome's eerie, mysterious, and unforgettable past, don't forget to give this video a like. It helps me out a ton. And subscribe to History, Legends, and Lore for more captivating stories from Rome and beyond. Let me know your favorite legend from today, or if I missed one, please let me know. I'm always digging for more. I've got kind of an addiction to Roman history, so I'd love to hear more. Until next time, take it easy and have a great day.